Hello and welcome back to another episode of Filthy Hope. If it's your first time here, welcome. On this show, we spend time in the grey spaces where Jesus, life, and culture intersect. I'm your host, Jonty Cornford, and I'm joined by my co-host, as always, Rev Ness.
Hey.
Bit different. We're doing this one remotely today, which, for reasons we might get into later in this podcast, we've been releasing episodes all week throughout January, but this is actually the first time we've recorded since before Christmas, I think. Is that right, Ness?
Yeah, it's incredible, isn't it? I know I was really nervous but excited to link up with you again and to hear how your time off has been. And so it's exciting to be together again.
Yeah, that's the prompting for this week's episode, I think, is we're just going to catch up, and we've both had a pretty action-packed January, I think, which we'll, as we'll discover, and share some stories. The first thing that we should talk about, though, is very rarely we see the same movie. And we both saw a movie called Conclave.
Yeah, and you bloody didn't tell me to go and see it, which I'm really mad about, Jonty, because it was a ripper, wasn't it?
Yeah, so I saw it just before. Actually, I won't spoil when I saw it because that'll lead into my next story that we get into. But yeah, did you saw this at the movies as well?
Yeah, I did. I went up to the at Mossman to the Hayden Orpheum and saw it there. It was just a mind blower. And one of the ladies in church told me that I needed to go and see it. And all she said was, in light of where things are today, Ness, you need to go and see it. So I thought, I wonder what that means. I said, I wanted a bit of a preface and she wouldn't give it to me. I said, I don't really, I'm not in the mood to go and sit through a Catholic church child abuse thing. And she said, no, it's not that at all. It's fine. You'll be fine. So I was really, really moved by it and quite shocked by it, by understanding the processes of the conclave.
Yeah. So for people that don't know what this movie is, just to briefly give an overview, it's I think takes place in about 72 hours, 2 or 3 days. The process of when a pope passes away, the conclave have to come together. I think that's the terminology, and where that fits in, have to get together and vote for a new pope. And the tensions and the political maneuverings that go on as these cardinals, is that the right term?
Yeah.
Debate, have meals together, and position little pockets of people, and backstabbing, and they have to pick the people on the left have to try and pick the right leader and who they think people are going to get the most votes for, and all of a sudden there are two people from the same group getting votes, and so that's the setup, and it's obviously starring a whole slew of people. Ralph Fiennes is I suppose the lead character, but all sorts of people are in this movie. John Lithgow, Stanley Tucci, Isabella Rossellini is phenomenal.
Stanley Tucci, I thought he was just amazing. I love him. He's terrific. I've been recently watching his foodie tour through Italy.
Yeah.
So I thought, this is weird having him as a cardinal or a bishop or whatever he was. A cardinal. Is a cardinal higher than a bishop, I'm thinking?
I think so. Yes, Don't hold me to that. I'd have to Google it quickly.
I think so. That's right. And he, to see him in that role, yet that whole Italian vibe that he brings, because he is Italian, it was it felt really real. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. Were you shocked by the politicizing that went on in the conclave when they were all gathered, and the way that they positioned and bullied and uncovered all the secrets that cardinals had been holding for a period of time? Were you shocked by that?
I was, but then I was reflecting on it and going, it's not that different to a lot of other religious organizations. Like, it's kind of fairly common, but because the Catholic tradition is so steeped in tradition and the garb and the liturgy, and it's very high church, that you don't expect that to cross over with like dirty backstabbing political maneuverings. But in reflection, I was kind of going, yeah, of course, because you've got with the the event of choosing a new pope, and they talk about this a lot in the movie, is really setting in motion the position that the church is going to take for the next 10 to 15 years, hopefully.
Yeah.
And so all of a sudden, everyone with all the different political and ideological differences who are working together while there is a pope
Mm.
see this as an opportunity to have a stake in like defining the direction that the Catholic Church is going to go in with the new pope.
Push
So you
their
have
agenda.
the progressives who are
Yeah.
desperately trying to not undo all the work that the pope that's just died has done over, I can't remember how long his and I should also say this is a fictionalized story, so this isn't related to real life
Mm.
popes. So fictionalized. But yeah, you've got the progressives who are going, this previous pope has just died, did all this amazing work to bring us forward into the 21st century. If we let the conservatives get their
Mm.
candidate in, then we're going to go backwards and undo all the work, and vice versa. The conservatives, sorry, are worried that like we've gone too far, we've got to get back to tradition and get everything back on the tracks.
Yeah.
So it's fascinating.
And that whole premise of um the new cardinal that nobody knew about because they hadn't met him before comes in out of the blue. Nobody holds him in high regard. They try to kind of do a counter move to discredit that he's actually really been appointed through the correct processes of the cardinal
Mm,
procedures. And his role is just, I would not have gathered that at all.
mm, mm.
At how that ends, you
Yeah,
know, I just would not have gathered it, but I was just so surprised, and the whole audience gasped.
mm. At the
Gasped.
revelation. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, it was just
yeah,
incredible. Yeah,
absolutely.
I was shocked by the really nasty nature of the lengths that some of these cardinals went to discredit their colleagues.
Mm,
Totally shit slamming their colleagues and through really manipulative, nasty behaviors. That, and I'm just about to say that surprises me, but then I think, does it really?
yeah,
Does it really?
like
Having been in the church for a little while now, I think I've seen a little bit of this kind of behavior. And it's
yeah,
sort of like, yeah, no, this is not just the Catholic Church. It's going on everywhere, Jonty, and probably even in any large organization, right?
mm,
Yeah, to
yeah,
that climbing to the top thing, that desire for the top job.
absolutely. There's that the character who at one of the bishops brings in a maid who another of the bishops supposedly had an affair with 15, 20 years ago,
Had a child with.
specifically so that she has to serve them food, and he gets up and causes a scene. And so like the amount of effort that goes into doing that just purely to discredit their name and to knock him off as a potential candidate to become the pope.
Of which he
Yeah.
was. Like he was doing really well, wasn't
Yeah,
he?
he was a
That's
front
right.
runner. Yeah.
Yeah. And then he claimed it was mudslinging and he went all about to put slurs on the other cardinals. It was better than, a Hollywood soap opera, quite
Mm.
frankly. It was intriguing and all men except for a couple of women, you
So
know?
I wanted to bring this up, and a friend of ours who's been on the show recently, Reverend Dr. Megan Pal-Dutois, also saw this, and I saw that she'd posted about it on her Facebook. So she said, without spoilers, Conclave was an interesting watch for a female minister like myself. Quote, God has nevertheless given us eyes and ears, which is the quote that Isabella Rossellini's character says when she comes into the mess hall at the end and drops some truth bombs and then just pieces out. Because that her character is very interesting because she's there in the background for the whole thing and barely says a word,
Yeah.
is just listening and watching
Being
and keeping
discerning.
count and discerning until
Yeah.
she has her moment to
Yeah.
just absolutely drop a hand grenade in the room and leave.
It was
So
gold.
how did you find that? Obviously reflecting on that also as a female minister, same as Megan,
Yeah,
how did you
I
find?
I loved Isabella Rossellini's role in there. I was a bit frustrated she didn't speak up sooner
Mm,
because we could see it unfolding, and and that created the tension, which was clever cinematography, really, wasn't it? Because I'm
mm,
sitting there saying, "Speak, girl, speak! Come on!" As she's gathering the intel of what she already knew,
yeah.
and I just and she's a nun, so she's of the highest order for women, I'm imagining, in the Catholic Church, the Catholic serving church. Would that be right?
Mm.
I'm saying the right thing there. But she then gets their attention and she sticks it to them so eloquently and politely and with vigor, and just serves it on a platter like John the Baptist's head, really.
And in such a like all she's doing is just telling the truth with no extra garnish, no extra like pizzazz.
Yeah.
She literally just goes, "Yep, this is the
And
thing."
doesn't do nerny ner.
No, that's right. She
No,
just says it,
factual.
and it
Just
just cuts half the room down.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
So it was just I think everyone cheered. I mean,
yeah.
there was real visceral response in my cinema in
Was it
Mossman.
in the main auditorium at
No,
the Orpheum?
no, one
One
of
of the
the
small
small
ones.
ones.
I love
Yeah,
those small rooms. They're amazing.
yeah,
Yeah,
good, aren't they? Really
yeah,
cool. Great vibe. Everyone, it was packed. It was every seat was taken. It was
yeah.
really amazing. So people really bought into the story.
Mm,
Yeah, so I found that plot and twists and turns that it took, and the expose of each of the um, cardinals that were lying and not telling the truth, and had histories and were clearly not of the candidature to be the next pope. I really enjoyed how they, from a storytelling perspective, weaved that into a very gripping,
mm,
quite a modern way of telling a story that's probably been going on for, thousands of years, the way
yeah.
they do things. It still surprised me because I like to, I don't know, I just probably my fairy tale Disney brain likes to hold these institutions in high regard, and to
Mm,
see them behaving like normal people with no Jesus quote, and really was kind of like a shot to the heart.
yeah,
It's like, oh no, this isn't good for the church. This thing's not good for the church.
yeah,
But you know, like my friend at church, my parishioner said at church, she said it's very, very it's a wonderful story, particularly for today. But I didn't really understand what she meant until now that I've seen it. You
yeah.
know, and the expose. I mean, I think we're seeing that, aren't we, in churches? We're seeing
Absolutely.
we're seeing any with the advent of social media and the way that we can all communicate with each other these days, whether it's truth telling or not truth telling, whether it's fake news or not fake news, you can push out a narrative, can you not? And so people who are holders of truth that don't like a mistruth told about their church, they're able to stand up and say what they think and feel. And I think we're in a time of that, and have been
Mm,
for quite some time. And many pastors are being brought down
yeah,
because of wrongdoing and poor behaviour, and and talking of which, talking famous cardinals, George Pell, the redress program has just paid out big bucks. I don't know if you saw that on the news.
yeah,
Um, Raping those two young boys, which the government and the paper and everybody wanted to swoosh under the carpet at the time, and the church wanted to swoosh it under the carpet. Now he's dead. Out it comes. Catholic Church is hoping that just does get no airtime.
yeah,
And oh man, what are we doing? You
yeah,
know, what are we?
yeah, yeah.
Yes,
Because the like, and in the situation with is the Isabella Rossellini character, the truth being shared comes at the cost of half the people in the room.
yeah,
who have not only the people who have been propagating the lie, but the people that have bought into the lie.
Yes.
And all of
Yeah.
a sudden, the truth is revealed, and yeah, if you're on the wrong side of that, you end up with egg on your shirt.
Yeah.
It's not good news. The truth is damaging to those people.
Yeah, unbelievable. I
Yeah.
love seeing. I have been into the Sistine Chapel. I've
Mm.
been. I know that that was a studio, but I've been in there, and
It's
that
an
do you know,
amazing set that they built.
oh,
It's
do you know,
so phenomenal. Yeah.
so real. It just
Yeah.
looked so real, and I even having had a look. There was a rope across the Pope's room. I was in the Sistine Chapel with only 20 people
Yeah. Wow.
before the place had opened. I did this special turn lock key tour, which cost a ridiculous amount of money, but there was only 20 of us in the entire place in the Vatican at that time. And we got to open each of the rooms. And one of those rooms inside, I opened the Sistine Chapel with the Sistine Chapel key, and the 20 of us went through with the guards. And then there's a little room off there, which is the Pope's room, and they showed this really well, where there's a telephone. I saw that,
Mm.
where the Pope can ring his parents when he's been elected. It's his own little room where all the little shoes are lined out, different sizes, all the robes of all the different sizes, according to whoever's going to be elected, because they don't know.
Yeah.
But at that moment, he gets ushered into that room, and he has a moment to tell his family before the whole world finds out and before the smoke goes up.
Yeah.
And he then gets dressed by the dressers into his outfit, his white Pope outfit. And I've seen that room, and they depicted it so well, Jonty, in the movie. It just
Mm.
looked exactly like it, just incredible. Just
Yeah.
so
It's phenomenal.
incredible.
And
Yeah.
has been nominated in the upcoming Academy Awards for set production and set
Has
design.
it?
So
Oh, because
yeah,
it just the
I just
artwork.
assumed seeing the trailer, I just assumed that they'd somehow gotten access to Vatican City
Oh,
to shoot, which I was
no.
like, absolutely, how did they pull that off? But no, it's all built.
Yeah,
It's
it was
incredible.
just so real. And when you've got the cardinals all sitting along the sides, along those tables like they're at a conference, and then down the front, the big murals behind them of the beautiful classic
Yeah,
Michael. Is it Michelangelo? It is, isn't it?
yeah,
Yeah,
with the God
Michelangelo.
touching man. Yeah,
Yes, that beautiful image, and they show you that up on that high altar there, where the high altar actually sits. That's where they put the box where the cardinals then walked up and put it into that silver thing, and they had to move the. Did you like that? How they had to move that dish?
I love how it just takes so long because
Oh,
everyone has to get up and they say the same statement. They put the thing in the thing and then do the thing that swishes the thing over and it drops in. Which is why it takes 72 hours. And I think they only vote in the movie. They vote 3 or 4 times
yeah,
over
yeah,
almost 3 days.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
And how they then gathered as different groups after day one had ended, and then they hadn't got the outcome, of course, and then a cluster of the left gathered, and then a cluster of the right gathered, and
yeah,
they all tried to sort of work it in the back room, so to speak,
yeah.
how to do the next maneuver. What was the next maneuver? I thought, oh, I think that our governments probably work like this as well, John.
100%. I think all institutions probably work like that, don't they? Yeah.
When we vote our moderator in and our president, I don't think, look, maybe I just haven't been around long enough to see it, or I don't know the right people, or whatever that
Not in the
story.
right rooms at the right time.
I'm
Yeah.
not invited to that conversation. But I don't know if that kind of bullshit actually goes on. Do you know?
I mean, I'm sure it does. Not to the high stakes and the high drama of in Conclave, but I'm sure, yeah, I'm sure there
Yeah.
are.
I,
I
I do remember some political kind of conversations, and I have felt that I've been, what's it called when an election comes up and they work you? What's that called when they are? when a political person is working the room and trying to get votes.
Trying to get your vote. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's a word, I can't think of what that is, but I have felt that in the
Mm.
past.
Yeah.
Um, you know, yeah, I felt befriended.
Yeah.
Not because I was really wanting, they were wanting me to be their
Just
friend.
just for the vote. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
No, it's probably not a lot different, is it?
No, no. I wanted to bring up as well, but I think probably one of my favorite things about this movie is so Rafe Fiennes, who's the guy that he's put in the position of preaching to the conclave before the voting starts. And I pulled up some of the script here. I'm just going to read not all of it because it's a long monologue. But he says, in the course of a long life in the service of our mother, the church, let me tell you that there is one sin that I have come to fear above all others, certainty. Certainty is the great enemy of unity. Certainty is the deadly enemy of tolerance. Even Christ was not certain at the end. And then he goes on later to say, our faith is a living thing precisely because it walks hand in hand with doubt. If there was only certainty and if there was no doubt, there would be no mystery and therefore no need for faith. And I just thought, what an incredible piece of writing, but there's so much in there that we might even do an entire episode at some point about some of the stuff that we can pull out of that because it's such a rich idea and put front and center in the trailer as well, which was part of why I immediately went to try and go see this movie. How did you feel about that?
Oh, I just loved it because, correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't it after that then the revelation of who actually gets selected gets selected?
This is before the voting happens. This is like
Yes.
right at the beginning. Yeah, yeah.
And but the beautiful thing is they do seem so certain on what
Yes.
the outcome's going to be, and it's just a total flip,
Yeah.
isn't it? It's not what anybody could have imagined, and that's I think the thing that I love the most and made me not just get hooked into the Housewives of Beverly Hills kind of vibe that was going on in the show, but the whole Holy Spirit moment. And that became really apparent where there's this terrorist plot that's going on outside the
Yeah.
church,
Yeah.
outside Vatican City, and a bomb goes off. A person blows themselves up, and they all get very shaken inside. The conclave get very shaken. Windows within the Sistine Chapel get shattered, and I was wondering what is happening now. What is on earth going to happen now, and how does that link in with the whole story? And was it just to add drama or what? But the beautiful point when the final voting happens and they're doing the routine again, marching up, putting their vote into the silver pot, go and sit back down. And then you see a wind come through the shattered glass.
From the outside. Yeah.
Yeah. And you get this Holy Spirit sense that the Spirit is moving through the conclave in that moment.
Yeah,
It
and could only come in once it was open to the outside world. Was the sense that I got as well. Like they've been shut in this
Yep.
silo,
Yeah.
and it took something as dramatic as a suicide bomb
Yeah.
for that to open up to the presence of the Spirit. That's kind of the imagery that I took from that. Which
Same.
yeah,
Amazing. It
stunning.
blew my brain, that piece. And I sat there with goosebumps. It was one of those
Yeah.
incredible, and to do wind in a place where there's nothing that moves. Do you know what I mean? To do that from a cinematography perspective, it was really cleverly done. I
Yeah.
think it was done through sound.
Yeah, and a moving camera as well from memory. 'Cause
Right.
it's all very like and there's one of the really things that stuck out to me about watching the film was so many shots. I would say just from memory, like this is a total guess, but like it seemed like almost most of the shots in the film were static. They were on a tripod. They were still, almost like paintings.
Yeah,
Because
right.
you're in the Sistine Chapel, you're in the Vatican, everything's stunning.
Yes.
It's these beautiful compositions with these little tiny people walking around in them. And then
Right.
all of a sudden, when the spirit enters, the camera starts moving.
Oh, it was
Yeah,
amazing.
stunning.
Yeah, I got that sense of, oh, there's hope for this. There's
Mm,
hope for this institution. And that's
yeah.
my mind went because I think I'd been um, worried. I'd been worried about that while I've watched this. I thought, oh, I hope this isn't just a shit slam the Catholic Church movie,
Mm.
And then this beautiful Holy Spirit moment happens, and I don't know if non-Christians would pick up on that. I have no idea, but I did. Something I
Mm.
picked very much resonated with me. And then they go about revealing the who the new pope is, and that just oh, do you want to unpack that bit?
Sure. I mean, so this is the bonus cardinal that shows up at the
Yeah.
last minute that a lot of people don't. A lot of the other cardinals are like, we shouldn't be like, is this person a real cardinal? Like, he's been doing work in the Middle East. I can't remember exactly where
Middle East,
in war torn
Afghanistan.
Afghanistan, in war torn areas,
Yeah.
ministering to people in the Middle East. And it's after the bomb goes off, they have an emergency meeting with the whole group where one of them, played by John Lithgow, who's one of the right wing, more conservative front runners, uses the bomb going off as an excuse for why we need to return to tradition, and
Yep.
the savages out there need the influence of us elite in here. And I wish I could remember the character's name. The Middle Eastern bishop gets up and gives this monologue about how that's completely upside down, and the
Oh,
place of the church is with the people,
yeah.
to
And you
paraphrase. And
and
all of
you've
a
got
sudden,
no idea about war. He sticks it to them
that's
all.
right. He's like, you know nothing about the real world. You know nothing about what it is to minister to people whose homes have been decimated, for example.
Yes. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
right. It
And
was
now we
the
have an opportunity to do that, and you're shutting them out. Like, what are you
yes.
doing? Yeah.
Yes. And it's I think there's the big turn in the movie at that moment where people are captivated by what he has to say. It's like we haven't heard anything from him at this point
He's a bit
much.
like Isabella Rossellini. He's just been quiet, been watching, been
Yep.
listening. Yeah.
Yep. Yep. Couple of little gathers of conversation to justify that he's real and that he
Yeah.
really was through the correct process. And Jonty, I'm just going to go and shut her in 1 second. So then
Yeah.
they're about to reveal after that big speech, which is such a crusader kind of a speech
Yeah.
that just moves inside of everybody, and it's really unexpected, isn't it? Like
Yeah.
like the Isabella Rossellini speech, it's unexpected, and you're all going, oh, "Where does this go now?" And I still didn't expect him to be the one that was going to be voted as
Voted in.
no.
Yeah.
And then there's the bigger reveal.
Yeah. And there are hints of this along the way. Like, Isabella Rossellini knows something about him and has access to medical documents.
Yes.
They are intersex. Were born with an amalgamation of both male and female reproductive organs.
Hermaphrodite.
After he has already been voted in, and so Ray Fiennes is then in the position of having to go, why didn't you tell us? Because
Yeah.
we've just voted you in. This is going to be huge.
Yeah.
How did that moment resonate with you? Because I've had some very interesting conversations with people of a generation older than you, even finding it very confronting.
Oh no, I was just thinking to myself, this is going to save the church.
Yeah.
This is going to save the church. This is just like amazing. And how they say, God made me this way.
Yeah.
Um, the cardinal had a choice of having a hysterectomy
Yeah.
and chose not to have that hysterectomy
Hmm.
because, and the cardinal says, because God made me that way,
Yeah.
both male and female.
And maybe that's what the church needs.
Yes. It was
Yeah.
just like, I've got goosebumps now as I relive that moment. And
Mm.
the crowd in the place erupted.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, it was just, they were a noisy bunch, let me tell you. That was so
That's great.
intense.
I love a loud theater
Yeah.
going experience. It means everyone's into it. Like,
I felt like I was in a live theatre production. They were
yeah.
really engaged. It was people were oohing and ahhing and gasping and laughing and clapping and yeah, it was just phenomenal,
Mm.
phenomenal.
Mm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I loved it
Yeah. I think if people
to end.
have seen this, write into us. We'd love to hear what you thought of it. And if you haven't seen it, if you're only just hearing about it now, I think a lot of people will hear about it in the next month or so because it's been nominated for a fair, like I think 4 or 5 Oscars. So there'll be a fair amount of press, which means it'll also still be showing for another month or so. That's the strategic. You release your Oscar bait movie in not to say that this is an Oscar bait movie, but you release your movie in January, so it gets your regular length run, and then it gets a second win when it gets nominated for Oscars, so you can leave it running in theaters for 2 to 3 months. So it'll be playing for a while. Do go out and try and see it because it's phenomenal.
And
It's really
and
good.
on a big screen too. It's one of those
Yeah.
ones that on a big screen they do this beautiful zoom out from one of the big balconies when all the cardinals are coming into the conclave and it's pissing down with rain and they've got umbrellas. That was just such a. Do you remember that scene?
Yes. Yeah.
Such a beautiful scene. They must have used a drone camera up
Yeah. Or a
really
big arm or something.
there
Yeah.
something because it was just beautiful. Just showed the magnitude of the number of people that were gathering to make this discernment, big decision.
Yeah. The director, Edward Berger, who's a German director, his previous film was a remake of All Quiet on the Western Front as well, which is a classic war movie. I think it was like the third or fourth movie to ever win Best Picture at the Academy Awards. It's from the 1920s. He did a remake of that a couple of years ago as well. That's phenomenal. So if you have seen Conclave and you want some more, go. I think it's on Netflix. All Quiet on the Western Front.
Interesting. Oh,
Yeah. So get in touch if you have any thoughts about Conclave. Unless you have any more thoughts about that, Ness, we might move on. Any final thoughts on Conclave?
I would just like to hope and pray that the discernment for these big roles, because they're not the Uniting Church, the Catholic Church believe that the Pope is like the conduit to God.
Mm.
That if that's the process in which that person is selected to be the conduit to God, the highest human position in the land for the Catholics, other than God, I think it's a pretty shit system.
It's
That's
a
what
very human system, isn't it?
flawed, massively
Very,
flawed.
yeah. And that's I think one of the
Yeah, flawed.
great insights of the movie is just how much the system, the voting process for that position is influenced by human nature.
Oh,
For, like you say, for a role that is held so high,
yeah.
so close to divinity. It's not divinity, but like
Oh, it's
you're
just
in charge of the one of the biggest religious institutions in the world, certainly one of the oldest.
yeah. Well,
Um,
that and the Catholics believe that even the cardinals, that's their literal conduit to God
that's right. Yeah.
via a human person. So uh, I just found that sad,
Mm.
really, really tragic and sad. And we need to kind of, I think, dismantle that. We need not hold it as in higher regard as people do, I think. But people always they need that. There's
Mm.
isn't there a
Yeah, yeah.
desire,
Certainty. Going back to that thing
certainty.
about certainty.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Fascinating.
Great movie. Go and watch it if you haven't already. Ness,
Yeah.
what have you been up to? I haven't seen you since like before Christmas, and we have spoken a little bit off camera, but you have quite a big story to share. Why don't we start there and we'll see how we go.
Okay. Yes, I, well, the reason why we're not together today is because last week, um, you know how I struggle with anxiety, Jonty. Just in the lead up to Christmas, I decided that I would start to wean myself off some anxiety medication that I've been on. And I thought, oh no, it's time for me to come off that. And I've put on a heap of weight and I was feeling really uncomfortable in my body. And I thought, no, I need to come off that now. It's, something that I don't need that anymore. I can do this. And so I went to my doctor and I started weaning off the medicine. And it's been a real shit show, actually. It's
Mm.
been a hard endeavor. And I've come off this medication 3 times before, and this withdrawal has been particularly hard. Um, but I did it exactly how the doctor said to do it, and it still left me kind of shattered. And a girlfriend said to me, for heaven's sake, why would you do that over the Christmas break? And I said, well, at least Christmas is a happy time. And I didn't want to do it over Easter because that's a bit of a sad time. And I have my own struggles at Easter time. So I figured Christmas was a good time to do it. There's lots of hope around at Christmas time. I'll smash this out of the ballpark. Well, anyway, so withdrawing, and I've been off the medication now since 10th of January was my last tablet.
Mm.
And headaches, nausea, dizziness, insomnia, um, body aches and pains, zapping in the brain, a shit sandwich, really.
Mm.
And but then I start to feel a bit better. Oh, that dog, man.
Dogs are welcome on this show.
Dogs are welcome. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Can you please settle your jets? Settle your jets. Come over here. Come over here. It's not even my dog. we, I, I decided that I would need to just go back to the gym. I'd been training anyway, and I thought I'll get back into spin again. I love spin classes. So I was doing spin, and I was getting all this tight chest, really strong chest pain. And I was saying to myself, oh, it's anxiety. I'm just anxious. I'm going to sort the dog.
Yeah, no worries.
Stop that barking, okay? Otherwise, I'm going to have to send you upstairs, my son. Oh, man. That's right. The postman's been, you big scary creature. So, where was I, Jonty?
Spin class.
Yeah, enjoying spin class, except for this terrible crushing chest pain that I would get. And I thought, oh, I'm just really anxious. And then when I'd be walking around, and this was even happening when we were in the US, I'd get this tight chest and I'd say, oh, I must be anxious.
Mm.
Oh, well, I am in the subway. Yeah, I would be anxious. Yeah, tight chest. Power walking through Central Park, tight chest. Oh, shit, I must be anxious. And so I kept thinking, oh, I'm really anxious a lot. It's like the language to describe any physiological response to a feeling in my body. But on Tuesday morning, I was at the gym with my PT, training legs and doing my normal thing with Liam. And I had this massive drop in heart rate, went right down into the low 50s and then shot straight up into the high 90s. And then I wanted to throw up. And then it was accompanied with a bit of tightness in my chest. I thought, oh, this isn't normal. Okay, I'm not doing any cardio, and that's a weird thing. I don't feel very well. Then I went, oh, maybe I'm just anxious. I continued exercising, feeling really sick, really glad when it was over, drove home, spoke to Rob, said, I think I'm anxious. And he doesn't have much empathy for my anxiety. I think I've burnt him out and members of my family because of this walking around tightness in the chest feeling that I've been having for about 6 months. They're just sick of me. they're over it. And I decide that I'm going to go to the doctor and check in on it because it doesn't feel, I really feel not well. I've got tightness sort of going into my arm, and I'm going, oh, I can't get on about my day unless I get this shit sorted. And then I'll come back to work and I'll be fine. I'll head into work because I had meetings in the afternoon. So I go to the doctor. Hi, I'm anxious. I suffer from anxiety. Tell him the whole story. Anxious, tight chest at the gym, tell him what happened. He says, Vanessa, not all feelings that we have in our body are actually anxiety. And I said, oh, no, no, no. And I tell him the story coming off the meds. I said, no, I'm sure this is anxiety. I'm just, I must have a thing going on about that. And I probably need another script for something. And maybe you should try me on something that won't make me fat, is literally what I said. Can you give me another drug that won't make me fat? And he said, actually, why don't we go and do an ECG? And I said, okay, look, that's a great idea. It's 10 years since I had my dissection of my right coronary artery. That's a good idea. Let's go and do that. That'll make me feel better just to do an ECG. And then we definitely know, then we know everything's okay. And then you can give me a script for anxiety medication. He said, that's a great idea. So we go into the next room, nurse hooks me up, and I pull an ECG that's not normal. And he takes me back into the room and he says, Vanessa, you're suffering from left bundle branch, left LBBB, left bundle branch, bad shit.
I've seen that on a form before.
Blockage.
That sounds right.
The other word. Yeah. So he says blockage, and I go, shit. I can't have a blockage. I had clear vessels 3 years ago. That's a quick blockage. And he says, you need to go off and have a blood test for troponins. And if you get continued chest pain, get immediately up to the hospital. I'm a bit worried about this, and we need to get this sorted out. So I go up to have the blood test to measure the troponins, which are the enzymes in the blood that measure whether or not you've had a heart attack. So he's concerned that I've either had in the middle of a heart attack, and potentially that the pain in my back is coming from a blood clot. So, what a happy fucking Tuesday, right? So I'm in a bit of shock, I think, and I come out of there and I ring my husband and he says, hey, I can't talk right now. I'm busy. I said, actually, I'm on the way to have a troponin blood test, Rob. He thinks I'm having a heart attack. Rob shits himself and meets me at Douglas and have blood test. I have more chest pain and he takes me straight up to the hospital, which was a really good decision. They take me straight in and they're treating me for a heart attack. Whether or not it was a tear in my coronary artery, they weren't sure, or whether it was some blockage, classic block in one of the arteries that might need a stent or some kind of intervention. So I'm in shock. I'm sitting there in shock. They're drawing more blood. I've got cannula in. They're organising a cardiologist. They moved really swiftly. They admitted me into the ward, up into the coronary care unit, and then still treating me for a heart attack. They then, the next morning, had lined up for me to have a coronary CT and a bunch of other tests. But the interesting thing that happened was that at 3:30 that morning, God woke me up and I just started praying for the people around me, because there was, in all the other rooms, there was a lot of action going on and machines beeping, and there was a guy, I reckon, drowning in the next room. He was coughing and sounded like he had congenital heart failure. It sounded really bad, and I was just worried for him. And I just found myself praying at 3:30 in the morning, and decidedly calm for somebody that suffers anxiety. And God said to me, put your hand on your heart, lay your hand on your heart and pray for a healing. And I started a dialogue with God and said, is that dog driving you nuts? A little bit.
No. Well,
Is that
it's
right?
fine.
Lay your hand on your heart and pray for a miraculous healing. And I started this dialogue with God and said, oh, look, I can do that for everybody else, but I haven't never done that for me. I can do that for, the chick at Woolies, but I can't do that for me. Lay your hand on your heart and pray for a healing. So with that, I very humbly, crying at that point, placed both hands over my chest and I literally prayed for a healing. Cried, because I've never done that to myself before. And I prayed for myself in that moment. Haven't done that, I don't think, for myself, said the minister. Dodgy as fuck, Jonty. Anyway, I wait then until I can ring Rob, because all I want to do is tell Rob what's happened. And I ring Rob, and at about 6 o'clock, and I say, Rob, I've got to tell you what happened at 3:30 in the morning. And he said, what time was that? Hang on, this dog's driving me nuts. Rob said, what time was that? And I said, 3:30. And he just went silent and started to cry. And so I told him the story that I've just told you. And he said, Vanessa, you'll never believe what happened. At 3:30, God woke me and said that I needed to lay my hands on your heart and ask for a miraculous healing. Oh, and then the two of us were just howling. And he said, and God said, trust in me and have no fear. That's what God said to Rob. And we just cried on the phone. And I thought, oh, Lord. And I felt this wash of peace. And I think it was the affirmation of hearing my husband say that the Spirit had prompted him at the same time. That to me was just a miraculous thing. How often do you wake at 3:30 in the morning to be prompted to pray? And both of us, we were not near each other. He was in Bilgola and I'm at Wahroonga. It was just such a spirit moment. And I know that without a shadow of a doubt, that was a thing. And I didn't know what that meant. All I knew was that I just needed to fear nothing, and to just settle in the fact that the Spirit was with me. And I really felt that. And with that, I dozed off back to sleep, and Rob said he'd come on up before the coronary CT, and I must have dozed off. And then next thing I know, Ginger and Rob both arrive at the hospital. Poor Aurora was on her second day of her very first job in her life as a speech pathologist and had to go to work.
Yeah.
And they both turn up at the door, and they waited with me while I then went into coronary CT, which, was quite an extraordinary. I had this most amazing blessing thing that happened there as well, because I'd said to the cardiologist, I said, I don't do well in those coronary CTs, because you're in a tunnel thing and you're injected with the radioisotope dye, and it's confronting. You've got to be still, your heart rate's got to be low for them to get the right images. They give you commands of breathing, holding your breath and then breathing out. It's a bit of a palaver, and it's a little bit, and you're waiting to find out whether or not there's something really serious going on with you. So I said to her, I'll be a much better patient if could you give me something to make me calm? I need something to make me calm. Just a bit of Valium will just help me get through that process and I won't be anxious in that moment and I'll be a better patient. And she really thanked me for being so honest and vulnerable. And she said to me, people like you, Vanessa, help other patients. And what I need to clarify was she asked me I I get anxious down in the having that scan. I kind of wanted to say, have you fucking ever had that done? It's not a great come on.
Why do you
And
reckon? Yeah.
yeah, like it's not rocket science. I don't
Yeah.
think people are very calm in that thing. And they said, I said, I was sexually abused as a child. I don't like being held down. I'm being injected with something. I've got to be in a fixed position. Nobody's in the room with me. It feels a bit stressful. And that's when she thanked me and she said, thank you for telling me because that helps other people. Your honesty and bravery. And she was really, I don't know, I didn't feel like a freak. And I can often feel like that when I share that stuff deeply, when you're vulnerable anyway,
Mm,
you know.
mm,
Anyway, so I had a lovely dose of diazepam, which helped me get through that whole process. And then I came back to the room and I was just ever so grateful to um, have my family there. And then, but now I'm waiting. I was waiting in limbo for a couple of hours, but I was calm because I was loaded up on drugs. But then she came in a few hours later with this huge smile on her face. And she said to me, and I thought, oh, this is either she's got something else and she just had a funny text from a husband, or there's some good news. And she said to me, look, Vanessa, there's a couple of really good things that are going on here. Your heart's really strong. That was great. And she said, and your previous SCAD, which is that dissection that I had in my right coronary artery, has completely healed. That's a blessing. That was 10
mm,
years ago to the month
mm,
that occurred. That was quite beautiful to hear that. And then she said it was the biggest smile. And she said, and your vessels are completely clear. That was like a huge relief to me. But she said, you've got this left bundle branch blockage. And then she explained to me that it's an electrical firing issue. And it was something that can just be an aging thing. It could be exacerbated by the fact that I've come off this medication for anxiety because that anxiety drug affects the neuro pathways, and this is a neurological pathway in the heart that's been affected. It could be because of that. She wasn't sure, but she said what we can do to manage it is we'll switch your blood pressure medication to the morning, and I'm going to put you on what's called a calcium channel blocker, which will help open the heart vessels and pathways to alleviate the pain, and just to take it easy for a week and to get back to exercise very gently, just walking, and step it in and then see me in a month.
mm.
And I said, does that mean I can go home? And she said, yeah, you can go home. So I had a huge cry. I didn't know. I wanted to kind of jump on the bed like a 5-year-old.
Christmas
And
Eve.
I really felt really cool actually. And I thought, thank you, Lord. What was like a real was a real shake up for me, Jonty. And I think I'm only 4 days into that now, and I'm still feeling just a little bit emotionally fragile about it all,
Yeah,
but
of course.
feeling okay. Feeling okay. Been walking, and I don't get the tight chest anymore. That's all gone,
Mm.
and so it's a really good thing. And I'll see her in a month, and I will know more. I suppose she'll probably do an ECG and a bit of a test to have a look at um, see what my heart's doing now in a month. So we'll see.
Mm.
So
So
yeah,
pretty quiet month then. Not much happened for you. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
I
exactly.
mean, yeah, it's so phenomenal to hear that everything's okay. Because
That's
I'll
such a
tell you, getting the text, not knowing your history with heart conditions, like you, I'm sure, like being present within the perspective of it happening to you, it was certainly a worrying prospect. So to hear the story of healing there is, especially like 10 years, I don't know anything about heart health really, but that must not be, it's probably unique, right? To some degree that SCAD has completely healed.
that
That's a
that
pretty major event.
yeah, it's yeah, I'm lucky to have survived that. And I think, well, no luck involved. I think it was a God thing completely. But
Mm,
and God was with me there. Then I felt so ever close to the Lord in that time.
mm.
And God told me some really powerful things at that time and told me that I would be healed. And I remember telling Reverend Carolyn Thornley that God said I'd be healed. And she remember holding my hand and saying, "But you really can just step down from this candidating for ministry." And I said, "Fuck no." Literally.
Yeah.
I said, "No, did you not hear what I said? God said I
Did I
will be
stutter?
healed." Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think it is a modern miracle story. And I was thinking about the Luke 7 passage actually, and we should probably do this in Into the Word. The Luke 7 passage is about the centurion who has somebody working for him, and Jesus does this healing of him, but not in. Jesus does the healing and says that he'll be healed, but the sick man's back at his home.
What's
And
the
this
passage again? Because I'll pull it up.
Luke 7,
Luke 7. Yeah.
and it's also in Matthew. I think it's Matthew 4. And the centurion's worker gets healed, and the centurion has to go back to the worker to find out that he does get healed. And I feel like that's a little bit like what happened with Rob and I. We were independent of one another, and the Spirit told me to pray for healing. The Spirit also gave God a command of something to do. And God, at the same time,
Rob.
Rob,
Yeah. Sorry.
and
Rob or
God,
God. Two
yeah,
different
God,
two different
yeah,
dudes.
the Spirit gave Rob a command to do something.
Yeah.
He was praying. I was being told to do something all at the same time.
Mm.
And then God did that thing. And I think it feels like I was trying to think, where in the Bible is that story about where Jesus does his healing, but the dude's not actually there, and he realizes that Jesus did the healing
Mm.
at the time that he said he will be healed. So I feel like I'm a living example of that miracle, and I
Mm.
am claiming that, man. And you know what? I'm the affirmation that the SCAD was healed was just 10 years to the month, to the
Mm.
weeks, is just like God's affirmation of care for me. I feel that. I really do. Because God needs me to have a strong heart for the work that I need to do, and for the life that I lead, and for him to, whatever else was going on with my heart at the time on that last Wednesday, um, Tuesday and Wednesday, I think that God has done beautiful things, because it could have been so much worse. And that's what they were treating me for, the so much worse.
Yeah.
Like, she came in with a smile, almost in shock that she was giving me this great news. I think I looked like a candidate for a blockage and
Mm.
potentially a stent. And in my own brain, I was concerned that the next day I would have been off to angiography to have more intervention. So I'm just like, God is good. Like, amen. And thank you. Thank you, God. And thank you, Holy Spirit, for that prompting.
Mm.
That was just, it was a gift, Jonty. And there were so many gifts in the hospital for me. the woman the nurse that was caring for me on my admission there happened to be Aurora's good basketball friend's mum that we knew from basketball. So she cared for me for all the hours in emergency. Then she does a handover up into the coronary care unit to this beautiful girl, and she recognizes my last name and hears me talking about Ginger and Aurora to Rob. She then speaks to her boss, and her name is Hannah. Shout out to Hannah, what a champion. She then came back into my room and said, Vanessa, I just want to say, I know you. You're Aurora's mum. We went through high school together. And I went, oh, and she told me her last name, and I recognized her last name. And she said, I just want to give you the opportunity. I don't have to care for you if you think that that's weird. And I said, I think it's not weird. I think it's amazing. What a blessing to have somebody that likes my daughter caring for me. You're a champion, Hannah. I love you. Please don't sack me. So I had these beautiful nurses. She said, I'm going to watch you like a hawk all night, Vanessa. And I thought, oh, bless you. That's just so lovely. And then this gorgeous cardiologist female. And it was just like, I love my guy for the last 10 years. He's been amazing. But this woman, Dr. Ashley, she's just like kind and empathetic, and she got me, Jonty. She really got me loud and clear. The one, she knew about my anxiety big time because she watched me talking at it like I was on speed. And she said to me, I said, do you think I need some anxiety medication? I said, I'll take this blood pressure medication. Do you think I need some anxiety medication? She said, do you know what, Vanessa? I think we just watch you for a month and then let's reassess that at the end of the month when we get back together. Guess what, Jonty? On Thursday, I've taken the medication and I say to Rob, oh man, I feel like I've never smoked marijuana, but I think this might be what it feels like. I feel a bit off my face. So we do, and I was on the lounge loving this feeling. It was just like, whoa, at bloody 7 o'clock in the morning, just chill at Jonty, like I've had two shardies, mate. It was just like, yeah, it was fantastic. And I then Google the medicine, and calcium channel blocker is actually used for mood disorder. It's used to help people with anxiety issues.
Huh.
And I think, how clever is she? I don't think that's any accident. I think she has looked at me, sorted me out, and gone, I'm going to switch this medication, give this girl some help here with her heart and her mind. Let's see how she rolls. And so it was like this double portion of blessing. And if I had never gone to the doctor, I would never have known, So I'm just in a place of gratitude today. Gratitude that I could turn my laptop on and sit at my desk and just do my work and be doing what I do and what I love to do and what I know I'm called to do. And I really do, without sounding too dramatic, I really do feel like God has done something quite remarkable.
And there's such a important lesson that I think a lot of, speaking as a young male as well, like such an important lesson of like, if you think something wrong, go to your doctor. I think there's still, it's gotten a lot better, but there is still such a big stigma about, I should be right. I'm sure it's not that bad. Like, just go see your doctor. The worst that will happen is they say, you're fine.
Yeah.
But in a situation like this one, it was like such an important decision because it led to all that healing and the process that needed to happen. Yeah.
Yeah. And Rob's being really nice to me now. It's quite lovely. Wants to hug me and tells me that he loves me and he doesn't want me to die. It's like, oh my gosh, I kept saying, yeah, but you could have got the life insurance. You'd be set up, babe. You'd be fine. He says, you are fucking mad.
Well, we're all, and I'm sure I'm speaking for all our listeners, very, very glad that you are a-okay.
Oh, so sweet. You
Yeah,
are
and
so
we're
sweet.
glad to have you back in our ears as well. Um,
Thank you,
yeah.
Jonty. Yeah, thank you. It's yeah, it feels okay. I think, and I'll over the next couple of days, it'll feel more and more normal for me.
Mm,
Yeah,
yeah.
each day feels a little bit better, so that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
that's why we're home. That's why I'm doing it from home at the moment.
Yeah. That's right. We'll be getting back into some in-person conversations very soon, I'm sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
Thanks for sharing so much because I know that's very vulnerable and still so close to the event as well.
Yeah, yeah,
But
no,
that's what we do here. Like
we do.
that's the definition of filthy hope. So
Mm,
and
mm,
like I can't remember who it was. It was the person doing the scans was saying like
yeah,
that vulnerability actually helps people.
yeah,
Yeah, sharing stories like that help people. So
yeah. He said, and none of that was on your record, Vanessa, and I've got a big record up there because my heart stuff has been recorded there over the years. And he said that really helps us doctor you. Yes,
mm,
and understand me. So it's like, yay, let's bring that on. That's helpful.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah, super good. Now, are you going to
yeah,
tell us about your events?
yeah, sure. I
You stand by 1 moment, 1 minute.
sure.
Yeah, not my dog. And if it goes escaping, then I'll be hated for life.
You'll get in trouble. Yeah.
Oh, super busted. Not a very good grandmother. John,
Um,
you've had this most incredible life adventure with your fiance.
yeah. I was traveling for 2 weeks. First time overseas since I counted back. It was the summer of 2017, 2018 was the last time I was overseas. So yeah, I was in Argentina for 2 weeks with my fiance and her family. So with the soon-to-be in-laws, there were a group of seven of us. It was phenomenal. It was phenomenal. It's one of those places where it was not on my bucket list at all. Places I wanted to go, but the opportunity came up, and yeah. So for geography people, we were in Buenos Aires, which is obviously the capital of Argentina, for a bunch of days. But we also went to a place called Iguazu Falls, which is right where Argentina kind of meets Brazil on one side and Uruguay on the other. It's a national park with the most incredible waterfalls. I will say as well, Buenos Aires is roughly climate-wise pretty similar to Sydney, and it's summer because also in the southern hemisphere. So Buenos Aires is very similar to Sydney, kind of pretty warm, sort of low 30s.
We run
Iguazu,
along the same longitudinal,
just about.
just
Yeah,
about there.
just about.
Wow.
It's very similar. Iguazu, much further north, we're walking through like rainforest essentially for a lot of it, and it was 36, 37 degrees and humid the whole time.
Wow.
But then we went south to two places in Patagonia, Bariloche and El Calafate, which are both much further south. Down in El Calafate, where we went to see glaciers, it was 10,
Wow.
12 degrees. So we had to pack for just about everything.
Just looking at a map now. Yeah.
Yeah, so pretty incredible. If you want to see some photos of Argentina that I took, you can go and have a look at my Instagram. I posted a couple of things up there.
Wow.
But yeah, it's 2 weeks of leave, completely like shut off from everything else overseas. We did have reception for a lot of it because major cities and infrastructure's great. But just yeah, I it's one of those things where like, oh, it'd be nice to go on a holiday, but then when you're on the holiday, it's like, oh, I actually needed this way more than I realized, So got back about a week ago, and the jet lag's worn off. I was a few nights in a row of waking up at 4 o'clock in the morning. But yeah, loved it. It was phenomenal.
And what about the people? Did you meet some interesting people?
We met, yeah. So we had tour guides along the way as well. So we had this one guy in particular called Gustavo or Gus, who took us around to Guazu. He was a character who we got along with great. Strangely, for a South American country, it feels very European in
Mm,
Buenos Aires.
mm,
There's a lot of European, particularly
mm,
Italian influence in the architecture, but in terms of vibe and the people, it felt very similar to some of those major Italian cities.
beautiful.
Interestingly, it's a really weird combination because you've got a lot of these really old, often neoclassical style architecture, you know, the sort of stuff you see around Italy and other
Right.
places in
Yep.
Europe,
Yep.
next to modern skyscrapers. Like it's a real mishmash of stuff on top of each other, and there's all this history on the surface. Like you've got all these massive monuments to people of history that
Mm.
refer to this rich history because it was a Spanish colony before it became its own country over hundreds and hundreds of years. I think from memory,
Mm.
Buenos Aires was established in the 1500s.
Yeah. Right. And by Spanish.
Yeah, so it's Spanish speaking country.
Mm. Mm.
Yeah, so it's just everywhere you go, there's like you can just walk past everything, or you can stop and someone can point out. So this thing, blah blah
Mm.
blah blah blah, and all this, you can spend a day just reading and learning about the one thing.
Wow.
Fascinating. There's so much rich history there,
And
and
Jonty,
I'm a
you know, you
history
talked
nerd, so
about the waterfalls.
yeah.
Is that on the border of Uruguay? Is that where that is?
It's up in the point. There's like a little pointy bit of Argentina that goes up into Brazil and Uruguay on either side.
Oh, yes,
Yeah.
yes.
So we actually drove into Brazil for a day to go around the
Oh,
other side of the falls as well.
they look
Yeah.
spectacular,
Oh, it's
those.
incredible. And like I said, like bloody hot and humid. So it's like you step out of the bus to go to start your walk and you just instantly like you've been in the shower. But at the
Yeah.
end, we got in a boat and they drive you up the rapids under
Oh,
under some of the waterfalls. So you get drenched, but
amazing.
beautiful after a day walking around in the gross humid heat to just get
Yeah.
absolutely dunked under the waterfall. It's phenomenal. Yeah.
Did you click with a Nikon or did you use your phone? Did you take photos with a camera or
So I did take a film camera. That I haven't got the shots back. I haven't got the. I think I took two rolls, so there'll be almost 50 shots that I took on film. But I took heaps of stuff on my phone. Yeah,
yeah, you need to share some with us. Yeah.
yeah, and I'm keen to get the film back to see what that looks like. But yeah, took heaps of stuff, and like I said, there's a fair bit of stuff that I took on my phone up on my Instagram. So people feel free to go and have a look there as well if you're interested. Yeah.
And Jonty, what would you say the top three things were that you experienced?
I loved Patagonia. So those last two stops, it's like a screensaver,
Wow.
like just absolutely saying. So we went driving. It's like the two days I think we spent down in El Califat, which is where the glaciers are.
Mm.
There were two fairly big drives to get to where we needed to go, where you drive through. It's like you leave this little town and then there's just this single road, and
Yeah.
everywhere else it's just nothing.
Wow.
And the tour guides explain to you how here's where the glacier used to be, and you can
Yes.
see all the effects of this and blah blah blah. And
Yes.
just driving through wilderness,
Wow.
imagining. I think there's something about physical places that the gap between the present and the past is way smaller, where you can actually, it feels like you've stepped into the past,
Yeah.
is something that I find, yeah, amazing to experience. Yeah, so the glaciers were phenomenal. It's again, it's one of those things where you look at it and you kind of can't comprehend the
Mm.
size and the scope of it, even when it's in front of you. Yeah, the falls were definitely up there. On our final night, we did go to a gourmet, like tasting meal, a
Oh,
tasting menu experience. So we had nine courses of food.
how the
Um,
Argentinians do their meat.
oh, I'll tell you what though, my body was pretty happy to be eating some greens again when we got back to Australia. It's like, do you want beef or beef? And then you go south, and it's like, do you want beef or lamb?
Yes.
Yeah, incredible food. And that last night in particular, we had some. Yeah, you sit there in a row at almost like a bar in front of the kitchen.
Oh,
They're
wow.
cooking it all in front of you, and they bring it out
Oh,
and they tell you what it is and how they cooked it, and
I love that.
phenomenal. Yeah,
Oh, what an incredible experience you've had.
yeah,
Amazing holiday. And to go with the family is just, that's super special because that's quite a rare thing at your age to still be having the family around you. It's beautiful. It's such a gift.
yeah. It was planned to happen 2 or 3 years prior, and COVID stopped
Yeah,
that. So my fiance's youngest brother just graduated high school at the end of last year, so it was a good
perfect timing.
opportunity for us to go. Yeah,
Yeah. Oh, how amazing. What a wonderful experience. I'm glad that you had time to, even though you were internationally traveling, which can be really exhausting on its own, it's still
yeah,
just being out of the normal, your normal, even though Australia is magnificent, we love it, and it's just absolutely, it's a gift to live here. Isn't it beautiful to taste and see another culture?
yeah. I loved it. Speaking of the flying and the travel, since COVID, the Argentinian government have a mandate in place that 95% of domestic flights must stop through Buenos Aires.
Oh, interesting.
So we took 10 flights
Oh,
total because connecting flights into Buenos Aires, we went Sydney to Santiago in Chile and then transferred over into Buenos Aires,
oh,
then up to
wow.
Iguazu. And then we go to Bariloche, but we can't just fly to Bariloche. We
Go
fly to
through.
Buenos Aires and then down to Bariloche. And then we fly back to Buenos Aires and down to
Oh,
El Califat. So we stacked up a lot of flying, which is exhausting, but
it
worth it.
is.
There was so much
It's,
amazing
but it's
stuff.
a massive country.
It's huge. Yeah.
It's huge. It's like you knocked off all the jewels, I think, in that experience. How beautiful for you. Hope you
Covered
got,
just about all the climates as well. So our suitcases were stacked.
yeah, exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. They're hard to pack those holidays,
Yeah.
aren't they? I hope you got a bloody fridge magnet or a t-shirt from Buenos Aires because you can say, yes, I've been there, bitches.
Lots of chocolate. We brought home lots of chocolate. They do chocolate really well as well. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Wow, that's amazing. Do they do coffee? Is coffee their thing too?
So we were told that that was the case.
Yeah.
And a couple of other people in Claire's family, like me, drink coffee quite a bit. And without saying coffee snob, we're definitely discerning
Yeah.
coffee drinkers, you could
Yeah,
say,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
And all of us separately had been told, oh, Argentina, amazing coffee. I'm sorry. If it exists, we didn't drink it. Like, not
Oh,
only was it average, like I had some of the worst coffee I'd ever drank in my life.
oh, mate. Oh, that
So,
can make a day.
yeah. So I don't know if anyone listening is like, oh, Argentina, good coffee. I'll go there to drink all the good coffee. Don't go to any of the places I went because I didn't find any. Sorry to burst that bubble, but
When I was in New York, we were desperate for a decent coffee. And the Midwest of the US, you can't get a decent coffee. And so we land in New York. And I tell you, do you know where I found a decent coffee?
Starbucks.
Shit, no. My friend's cafe in bloody Manhattan down near Wall Street called Suited. Shout out to Lil and Andrew, Australian barista. And it was the best coffee I had in that entire trip. I had to eat an Australian.
See, it was so bad that I like the reason I said Starbucks is by the end I was just like, I know that if it's like McDonald's, I
Yeah.
know when I go to Starbucks what I'm going to get.
Oh, yeah.
So
And do they have Starbucks over there?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yes,
So
yeah.
big, tall, cold brew in ice
Like
from
cold brew.
Starbucks. They'll do
We,
it. I'll
we
take
did
that
that
over
in the Midwest.
a grainy and a cappuccino in Argentina. They
Oh,
pour cinnamon in it,
oh,
and sometimes chocolate syrup
oh,
for a
wow.
cappuccino. But the chocolate powder that they put on has this like sawdusty like
Oh, nice.
texture to it. The really good way to ruin a coffee is make sure you're just like picking at shit out of your teeth the whole time.
You're funny. Oh, what a great thing. I'm so
Uh,
glad you had a great time. I'm glad you're back safely and you've had
yeah,
a really rich life experience. You've got a wedding coming up this year. It's a bit of 2025 thrive and
yeah,
survive for you guys, isn't it?
yeah, yeah. Bit of travel after the wedding as well,
Yeah.
having just been overseas before as well. So
You've got to
it's all
be,
happening.
it's really exciting and you're going to have lots of good content for the show. We're very grateful
Oh
to
yeah, I'll happily report back any and all good stories along the way. Yeah,
definitely, definitely. We will look forward to that. Oh, how wonderful.
yeah.
Well, it's beautiful to be back.
It is. Yeah, yeah. Weird that we haven't recorded for such a long time because we've been doing it for such a long time without
Yeah.
really a break. So it's good to be
Yeah.
back. It was a
It's really good to be back.
good bit of fun.
Yeah.
Before we wrap up, we need to remind people of our live show that's coming up as well.
Oh, now,
Not
Will,
long.
great.
Yeah, Will Small will be in the building as our special guest. Tickets have been up. The site's been up for a couple of weeks now, so I've been seeing plenty of people already snapping them up, which is really exciting. But yeah, there'll be a link down below and on the website, and on socials and everywhere. It's free, but make sure you register to come along. It's on the 23rd of February, which is a Sunday evening. Once again, we're being hosted by Taramara Uniting very kindly, which is only the first of a bunch of shows we're doing this year. So we'll keep you updated as those
It's
dates
such a
roll out
great
as well.
venue there. It's such a great venue, and they're so hospitable, and it's just very comfortable and it's warm in terms of its love. It's a beautiful place to come and have a live event. You'll all enjoy it 100% if you haven't been to one of our live events before. We can't wait. I can't
Yeah.
wait to have Will Small. That's going to be a beautiful conversation.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. We're
Epic.
gonna have a convo, share some stories, and he'll also be doing some poetry for us, which will be
I'm loving
phenomenal.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Incredible.
And come and hang out and have a drink with us after as well. I should say this because I'm obviously promoting the show as well, but almost just as good as the show is then being able to hang out with you guys listening. Because
Yeah.
it's any opportunity we get to hang out with our listeners. Yeah, so we hope to see you there. The only other thing that I think we should mention before we get out of here is Into the Word, which we will be doing again this year. We haven't jumped back into that just yet, but it will be happening this year, hopefully with some guest quote unquote preachers as well.
Yeah.
But if you, as a listener, have any thoughts or ideas for series or Bible passages or things you want to hear from us in Into the Word, now's the perfect time to let us know, as we plan a bunch of stuff this year for that show as well.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I tell you what, I can bore you all to tears with my next subject at university, which will be about divine suffering, my friends.
Oh,
So
nice.
I've got a list of books that I'm getting currently into. So I can, if you don't want to hear about divine suffering, give us another topic.
Yeah. That's what we're falling back on, people. If you don't email in, I'm keen to do some Ecclesiastes at some point as well, which honestly isn't that far off from divine suffering, to be
No,
honest.
that's
So
right. Yeah.
there's your incentive. If that sounds horrible to you, email us.
Let us know.
Be like, can you do Romans or something instead?
That's great.
That's us for this week. I think. Thanks for talking with me, Ness. And
Yeah, you
again,
too.
thanks for being so vulnerable and sharing
Oh,
such a yeah vital
how
story. I
exciting.
think. Yeah.
And if you can all pray for me, I'd really love that. I love a good dose of prayer.
Yeah. People ask us all the time, how do we like support the show? You can obviously go to the website and there's ways to give financially there if you do want to, but like praying is as Christians we particularly in the Uniting Church, and I had a really good couple of conversations with some people over the weekend, which we'll pick up next episode about. Like in the Uniting Church, we tend to almost forget about prayer sometimes and how powerful it can be. And the story you shared today about like is testament to the power that prayer can have in our lives. So
And you know what? I reached out to a whole lot of people um, that morning after I'd had that message from the Spirit. I texted a whole bunch of my close Christian friends just to say, oh, by the way, this is happening right now. Could you pray for me? And often ask for prayer because I'm often the one that does the praying for the people that need the praying. Do you know what I mean? But
Yeah.
I just boldly asked this time. I said, actually, I really need prayer. And I felt deeply held. I can't begin to tell you. Deeply held
Mm.
it was a
Mm.
beautiful feeling. In a spirit sense, I felt totally held. Yeah, it was
Yeah.
precious.
So if you're a praying person, your prayerful support of us as we embark on some pretty ambitious things this year at Filthy Hope is greatly appreciated, as well as all the other things you can obviously do as well, like leave 5-star reviews and subscribe and blah 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 blah. But prayer's greatly appreciated too. Almost more important, I think.
Yeah, it's so great.
Yeah, we'll talk soon, Ness.
Buddy.
And listeners, do get in touch. Facebook group, all the stuff down below. We'll talk to you guys all soon. See you next week.
See you guys.
This is a prayer for the people who want to give up, who have been hurt beyond repair and cannot bear to see your face in anything. Find peace in letting go of the guilt